So a lot of people a lot of people don't understand very well that everything is about nothing at the end of the day. Anything that you're doing, anything that you think has meaning to you right now, any ideas you have about the world, all of it means nothing. There is nothing, you can kind of think of it running underneath everything. The continuity of the nothing. It's like no matter where you run, no matter where you hide, in your thoughts and your conceptions and your belief systems, it can all reverse into nothing in an instant. And you could view it from the perspective of it meaning nothing to you as well. Louis Vuitton means something to all of us, but it doesn't mean anything to a tribal person. Reversibility of everything that you're looking at. So if all meaning is reversible, why don't you just, like, what do? Now you're a nihilist. There's nothing at the middle of everything. Well, meaning something to you is pretty pleasurable. You know, like, fulfillment is really the only pleasurable thing. Like, you know, all of these base vices of, like, you know, if you're jacking off all the time, or if you're like smoking weed all the time, even if you're running all the time for runner's high, because it's not helping you get better at the meaning thing. It's just part of your belief system. It's not helping you refine your ability to believe, your ability for something to mean something to you. And if meaning is the fulfilling, pleasurable thing here that we can all agree on, either something means something to you or it doesn't, and if the meaning clicks, like we've all had those really click moments of like fulfillment when we've been lying in bed and you just like see the world right. I saw a meme about it when I was growing up, so I know that enough people felt this, where it's like, oh, how I sleep at night knowing all my opinions are correct, or whatever, however they put it, and you feel like that, right? You kind of feel like you know everything. That's really pleasurable. Imagine that like times 1,000. The word plateau comes from an essay by Gregory Bateson on Balinese culture, in which he found a libidinal economy quite different from the West's orgasmic orientation. In Deleuze and Guattari, a plateau is reached when circumstances combine to bring an activity to a pitch of intensity that is not automatically dissipated in a climax. The heightening of energies is sustained long enough to leave a kind of after-image of its dynamism that can be reactivated or injected into other activities, creating a fabric of intensive states between which any number of connecting routes could exist. The best way of all to approach this book is to read it as a challenge, to pry open the vacant spaces that would enable you to build your life and those of the people around you into a plateau of intensity that would leave after image of its dynamism that could be re-injected into still other lives, creating a fabric of heightened states between which any number, the greatest number of connecting routes would exist. Some might call that promiscuous. Deleuze and Guattari call it revolution. The question is not, is it true, but does it work? What new thoughts does it make possible to think? What new emotions does it make possible to feel? What new sensations and perceptions does it open in the body? Fulfillment is the sense of being in control, knowing everything. You feel this sense of potential, really, when you have those fulfilling moments. Like you could steer your life anywhere because you understood how everything worked. What happened to that? You still can. You don't have to give in to your shit job. So if everything means nothing, but there's only two things in the world, which is something either means something to you or it doesn't mean anything to you. And when something, you can manipulate the meaning in such a way that it helps you increase your capacity for meaningfulness. So you can choose a belief system which lends you some meaning, and that belief system can either help you further refine your belief system so that you can believe harder in things, so that things can mean even more to you. However that meaning is arranged, you're refining the ability for things to mean to you through the belief system that you're selecting instead. Why would you not do that? What new sensations, what new thoughts? It's expanding the territory. This is what they call the plane of consistency, right? The sheet. Fuck. This is our thought. This spiraling line is our thought. Now, what's the point of going really deep on one specific belief system and just going all out on it, and it's not really helping you anymore? You're just going in like a straight line, like you know where your life's headed. You know that you're going to be taking the tube every day. For the next 40 years, like you just know your life is on fucking rails. I don't need to expound on that. Okay, and in terms of your thoughts as well. So you don't need to start running around outside and becoming a crackhead and becoming a homeless person. If it's too shit out there and you'd have to be homeless to do this in the physical world, don't do that. Do it in the mental world first. The mental world is the most important. So this is our thoughts as well, our belief systems, right? Our belief systems is how we think and how things mean stuff to us. It's really fucking difficult. These are called lines of flight. So the lateral lines, now we're thinking outside the box. We're covering the plane of consistency. We're thinking rhizomatically. What new thoughts, right? Why would you not choose the belief systems that allow this process to happen better? Because you're actually exploring the territory instead of just going in one direction. Someone's made you go in one direction and there's no point. You should hone your ability to go in any direction. And so this is what they're talking about in the book, Lines of Flight. They're talking about that. That's a term in Deleuze and Guattari's 1,000 Plateaus. But as they're talking about it, they're doing it. And line of flight as a term is an example of something that lends itself as a line of flight across the plane of consistency, which allows you to just escape this one way of thinking and think rhizomatically and fly off. So they're talking about this so that you understand how it works, so that you can do the process easier while they're doing the process. And this is how music works. This is how good music, it builds up a structure and then it subverts the structure, right? That's like the classic thing Mr. Nixon always said, or whatever the fuck. Always follow the rhizome by rupture, lengthen, prolong, and relay the line of flight. Make it vary until you have produced the most abstract and tortuous of lines of end dimensions and broken directions. Conjugate deterritorialized flows. Follow the plants. You start by delimiting a first line consisting of circles of convergence around successive singularities. Then you see whether inside that line new circles of convergence establish themselves with new points located outside the limits and in other directions. Right, form a rhizome. Increase your territory by deterritorialization. Extend the line of flight to the point where it becomes an abstract machine covering the entire plane of consistency. Go first to your old plant and watch carefully the watercourse made by the rain. By now the rain must have carried the seeds far away. Watch the crevices made by the runoff and from them determine the direction of the flow. Then find the plant that is growing at the farthest point from your plant. All the devil's weed plants that are growing in between are yours. Later, you can extend the size of your territory by following the watercourse from each point along the way. Music has always sent out lines of flight, like so many transformational multiplicities, even overturning the very codes that structure or aborify it. That is why musical form, right down to its ruptures and proliferations, is comparable to a weed, a rhizome. 5 and 6, principle of cartography and decalcomania. A rhizome is not amenable to any structural or generative model. It is a stranger to any idea of genetic axis or deep structure. A genetic axis is like an objective pivotal unity upon which successive stages are organized. A deep structure is more like a base sequence that can be broken down into immediate constituents, while the unity of the product passes into another transformational and subjective dimension. This does not constitute a departure from the representative model of the tree or root, pivotal, taproot, or fascicles. For example, Chomsky's tree is associated with a base sequence and represents the process of its own generation in terms of binary logic. A variation on the oldest form of thought. It is our view that genetic axis and profound structure are above all infinitely reproducible principles of tracing. All of tree logic is a logic of tracing and reproduction. In linguistics, as in psychoanalysis, its object is an unconscious that is itself representative, crystallized into codified complexes, laid out along a genetic axis and distributed within a syntagmatic structure. Its goal is to describe a de facto state, to maintain balance in intersubjective relations, or to explore an unconscious that is already there from the start, lurking in the dark recesses of memory and language. It consists of tracing on the basis of an overcoding structure or supporting axis, something that comes ready-made. The tree articulates and hierarchizes tracings. Tracings are like the leaves of a tree. The rhizome is altogether different. A map, not a tracing. Make a map, not a tracing. The orchid does not reproduce the tracing of the wasp. It forms a map with the wasp in a rhizome. What distinguishes the map from the tracing is that it is entirely oriented towards an experimentation in contact with the real. The map does not reproduce an unconscious closed in upon itself. It constructs the unconscious. It fosters connections between fields, the removal of blockages on bodies without organs, the maximum opening of bodies without organs onto a plane of consistency. It is itself a part of a rhizome. The map is open and connectable in all of its dimensions. It is detachable, reversible, susceptible to constant modification. It can be torn, reversed, adapted to any kind of mounting, reworked by an individual, group, or social formation. It can be drawn on a wall, conceived of as a work of art, constructed as a political action, or as a meditation. Perhaps one of the most important characteristics of the rhizome is that it always has multiple entryways. In this sense, the burrow is an animal rhizome and sometimes maintains a clear distinction between the line of flight as passageway and storage or living strata, cf. The muskrat. A map has multiple entryways as opposed to the tracing, which always comes back to the same. The map has to do with performance, whereas tracing always involves an alleged competence. Unlike psychoanalysis, psychoanalytic competence, which confines every desire and statement to a genetic axis or overcoding structure and makes infinite monotonous tracings of the stages on that axis or the constituents of that structure, schizoanalysis rejects any idea of pre-traced destiny, whatever name is given to it, divine, anagogic, historical, economic, structural, hereditary, or syntagmatic. It is obvious that Melanie Klein has no understanding of the cartography of one of her child patients, Little Richard, and is content to make ready-made tracings. Oedipus, the good daddy, and the bad mummy, and the good mummy, while the child makes a desperate attempt to carry out a performance that the psychoanalyst totally misconstrues. Drives and part objects are neither stages on a genetic axis nor positions in a deep structure. They are political options for problems. They are entryways and exits, impasses the child lives out politically, in other words, with all the force of his or her desire. Have we not, however, reverted to a simple dualism by contrasting maps to tracings as good and bad sides? Is it not the essence of the map to be traceable? Is it not of the essence of the rhizome to intersect roots and sometimes merge with them? Does not a map contain phenomena of redundancy that are already like tracings of its own? Does it not a multiplicity have strata upon which unifications and totalizations, massifications, mimetic mechanisms, signifying power takeovers and subjective attributions take root? Does not even lines of flight, due to their eventual divergence, reproduce the very formations their function is what it was to dismantle or outflank? But the opposite is also true. It is a question of method. The tracing should always be put back on the map. This operation and the previous one are not at all symmetrical, for it is inaccurate to say that a tracing reproduces a map. It is instead like a photograph or an X-ray that begins by selecting or isolating by artificial means, such as colorations or other restrictive procedures, what it intends to reproduce. The imitator always creates the model and attracts it. The tracing has already translated the map into an image. It has already transformed the rhizome into roots and radicals. It has organized, stabilized, neutralized the multiplicities according to the axes of significance and subjectification belonging to it. It has generated, structuralized the rhizome, and when it thinks it is reproducing something else, it is in fact only reproducing itself. It is generated, structuralized the rhizome, and when it thinks it is reproducing something else, it is in fact only reproducing itself. That is why the tracing is so dangerous. It injects redundancies and propagates them. What the tracing reproduces of the map or rhizome are only the impasses, the blockages, incipient taproots, or points of structuration. Take a look at psychoanalysis and linguistics. All the former has ever made are tracings or photos of the unconscious, and the latter of language. With all the betrayals that implies, it's not surprising that psychoanalysis tied its fate to that of linguistics. Look at what happened to little Hans already, an example of child psychoanalysis at its purest. They kept on breaking his rhizome and blotching his map, setting it straight for him, blocking his every way out until he began to desire his own shame and guilt, until they had rooted shame and guilt in him. Phobia, they barred him from the rhizome of the building, then from the rhizome of the street. They rooted him in his parents' bed. They radicaled him to his own body. They fixated him on Professor Freud. Freud explicitly takes little Hans' cartography into account, but always and only in order to project it back onto the family photo. And look at what Melanie Klein did to little Richard's geopolitical maps. She developed photos from them, made tracings of them, strike the pose or follow the axis, genetic stage or structural destiny. One way or the other, your rhizome will be broken. You will be allowed to live and speak, but only after every outlet has been obstructed. Once a rhizome has been obstructed, arborified, it's all over. No desire stirs. For it is always by rhizome that desire moves and produces. Whenever desire climbs a tree, internal repercussions trip it up and it falls to its death. The rhizome, on the other hand, acts on desire by external productive outgrowths. That is why it is so important to try the other, reverse but non-symmetrical operation. Plug the tracings back into the map. Connect the roots or trees back up with a rhizome. In the case of Little Hans, studying the unconscious would be to show how he tries to build a rhizome. With the family house, but also with the line of flight of the building, the street, how these lines are blocked, how the child is made to take root in the family, be photographed under the father, be traced onto the mother's bed, then how Professor Freud's intervention assures a power takeover by the signifier, a subjectification of affects, how the only escape route left to the child is a becoming animal, perceived as shameful and guilty, the becoming horse of Little Hans, a truly political option. But these impasses must always be resituated on the map, thereby opening them up to possible... So whenever you get bored, because you're inevitably going to get bored, because what the fuck is this? I'm sat on the tube, I'm sweating and I can't be fucked. Happens to the best of us, mate. I can't be fucked sometimes. But the times that it does click, and however you get those, whether you get those through drugs, a managed, controlled moderation of drugs, or through some other activity in your life, preferably, and you have another strategy, you have to apply the fruits of your hard labor, if it's getting tough, to remind yourself that it was worth it. And that process becomes easier and easier and easier, and becomes more and more clear to distinguish the fact that you are doing good work, that you don't even need to take as many breaks, because you don't need to readjust as much as well. So this is the difference between the empirical ego and the transcendental ego. Empirical ego is enjoying the belief system that you spent time building as your transcendental ego. And the more potent that belief system, the more sensations you can feel, the more things you can think, the freer you are, the freer you are. And the more you can seduce physical reality as well. But that's just like a side product at a certain point. Just doing the thing, doing the thing. That's why fractals are a thing. Just apply it. Just apply the fruits of your hard labor. If people forget that it's pleasurable, people forget that this process is pleasurable. And yes, it's still chatting shit, but why would I chat lower tier shit when I can chat the high tier shit? And you know this is true. This is like so obvious. Maybe you don't remember having a good conversation at this point, but there are good conversations and there are just shit conversations. And you have to have a high enough standard to cut all the shit out of your life. Because why? Let's chat the high quality shit. And yeah, it takes effort. You have to do this extra thing to improve the quality of your shit chatting, which is like the theory side of it. But then you can apply it and it makes it all worth it. And you get these incredibly orgiastic, orgasmic, I don't know if orgiastic is relating to an orgy, orgasmic experiences that can be described as plateaus. And yeah, everyone's gonna say you're the most pretentious dickhead ever, and you're whatever, and that's fine. They're gonna say you're so fucking pretentious. But here's why it doesn't matter. Because it works. I'm having a good fucking time. I'm really healthy. I'm just really healthy and passionate and energetic. It's just working. It's pretentious. It's pretentious. So instead, I'm gonna sit here, jack off every day, and scroll Instagram. I just rather be me. Do you know how I can say that? Because I was that guy. We were all that guy. Cut the fucking bullshit, mate. Just cut the fucking bullshit with yourself as well. Life can be so much better than just coming home from work and taking a hot shower and eating some dog shit Deliveroo, which some unpaid immigrant is delivering. I don't know. They kind of get well paid. They're wearing good clothes and shit. They probably don't. And then jacking off. And then doing it all over again. It's just like, cut this shit, man. It works. Just find something which works for you, which really works. There's no passion or meaning in jacking off to your favorite porn star, or in your office job, or in any of what you're talking about with your friends and co-workers. And you can just hide away from it, bury your head under your sheets, and say, this guy's being pretentious, no one likes him anyway. That's fine, fuck me in the arse. But at the end of the day, you'll be having a better time if you increase the quality of your shit chatting. Do it well. If everything's bullshit, surf the bullshit. There's worse things to be than an asshole. much, much worse things to be than an arsehole. There are much worse things to be than a pretentious dickhead arsehole. If that's what I am, I'll fucking take it, mate. I'm getting off just chatting to myself. But it's for, at the end of the day, I know what I'm doing it for. I'm doing it for all the kids out there like me who are smart enough to get that something's not fucking adding up, and who are only taught in formal languages and Turing computability and fucking boring shit. Just like, think differently, bro. Think anything. Think the object thought. It's hard though. They box you in so hard from birth. The entirety of Freudian psychoanalysis, it's not even like the humanities are innocent. The humanities are the worst offenders. Anti-Oedipus. Freud came up with the Oedipus complex. They named the whole book on anti-Oedipus. Fuck Freud. Fuck psychoanalysis. It's just so stuffy. Oh, just fuck off. Just fuck off. Just anything else. And this is, the revenge of the object, Baudrillard calls it. The revenge of the object. Little Henry becomes a horse in response to Freudian psychoanalysis exerted on him. A truly political choice, Deleuze and Guattari say. Just anything, and and the tribal people take their revenge by disintegrating on contact. And the best we can do fair play.